Hello, so this is my video for the capstone project, so I'm just going to quickly go through what we're doing and then talk about what I've kind of done this week. So basically we're making a tower defense game. Um, it looks like this. Basically you start it up, enter. It's not currently working right now because I made a few changes and they're not working, but hopefully going to fix that by the end of tonight. So right now we've got towers implemented. And you can just place those. Obviously the graphics aren't finalized. And we can place those right here, here, just using basic keyboard layout. We can't really get the cursor to work very well yet, but hopefully we'll fix that as well. And then you can start the wave with P. Oh wow, it's working. Okay, see I didn't expect that to work, but it did, which is awesome. I must have fixed something. So basically, as you can see, we've got unit health that we're tracking on each individual unit. That's something that I implemented today. Before, all the missiles were just insta-kill, and all missiles were treated the same. That's kind of one of the big things I've been working on today personally. So just to dive into what I've done today, and just over the past week in general, a lot of the past few weeks I've just been researching, trying to figure out how this engine works in the first place, because there's a lot of documentation that I've had to go through. But this past week, so what I've done is first off, I've implemented this game title screen, which we just went through. I can open that up again. So basically, this is something that I implemented today. This tower defense start screen, which doesn't look too hard. It was annoying to me because there's so much weird, you know, stuff in this engine. But basically, we've got an audio track playing, which is commented out right now because we couldn't get the audio track working, but that works fine. We've got, it's going to automatically scale the background image to the screen, which is nice because we can quickly change out the background images if we decide to find something different. And then we've got text here. This is where it's rendering the font. I think I'm going to change that to make it. I think if we have time later on in the semester, I want to try to implement glowing texts, which is probably going to require a for loop where we're just kind of looping through 4 or 5 different texts. But yeah, I mean, there's not too much to say about this. It's really just changing the game state. So we start in a menu state. If you press enter, it transitions into a game state, and the game starts. So there's really not too much to say. I mean, we could implement like a high score thing through this menu later if we wanted to, but that's not really on the table so far. Really, what I've worked a lot on recently is implementing enemy variation, missile variation, and tower variation. So we've got our towers, missiles, and enemies split up into 3 different JavaScript files. Right now we've just got one enemy, and that's fine for testing. Basically, what I've done is I've implemented a enemy health variable, which tracks the enemy health. Before, they didn't have health, just if they were hit, they would die. So now what it's doing is it's subtracting, and see what I've just implemented right now is it says if other body equals collision type is an air missile, then it'll subtract -5, and eventually what this will look like is it'll have, if it gets hit by an air missile, then it's going to do 5 damage, and if it's a water missile, it'll do 10, and a rock might do 20. Just as an example. And I've started to implement air missiles, water missiles. Those will be associated with air towers and water towers. And eventually, I think what I'm going to work on over the next week is kind of an area of effect. I think that's going to be a bit more difficult where, a water tower, if it hits one enemy, should also damage enemies around it. And I think, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that yet, but yes, I think I've made a lot of good progress on the core systems required for this, and hopefully over the next week we start to work out the AOE and work some of the final kinks out. And honestly, it's pretty much ready to show. I think if we get a few textures in here over the next week, it's looking pretty good. So that's kind of my update, and goodbye.